All right, so let's get to some good news in light of the crap that the Supreme Court is spewing right now. So, you might have heard that the Supreme Court has ruled as unconstitutional Biden's student debt forgiveness program. So, in light of that, the Pell Grant program is being expanded, which is great news. So let me just get right to the article. The graduates lined up, brushing off their gowns and adjusting classmates' tassels and stools. As the graduation march played, the 85 men appeared to hoots and cheers from their families. They marched to the stage, one surrounded by barbed wire fence and constructed by fellow prisoners. For these were no ordinary graduates. Their black commencement garb almost hid their aqua and navy blue prison uniforms as they received college degrees, high school diplomas, and vocational certificates earned while they served time. Thousands of prisoners throughout the United States get their college degrees behind bars, most of them paid for by the federal Pell Grant program, which offers the neediest undergraduates tuition aid that they don't have to repay. That program is about to expand exponentially next month, giving about 30,000 more students behind bars some $130 million in financial aid per year, which is great because if we can get these people degrees, then the chance of recidivism goes down. So I think it's a good investment. The new rules, which overturn a 1994 ban on Pell Grants for prisoners, begin to address decades of policy during the tough on crime 1970s through 2000s. Oh my God, was that long? That brought about mass incarceration and stark racial disparities in the nation's 1.9 million prison population. Okay. For prisoners who get their college degrees, including those at Folsom State Prison who got grants during an experimental period that started in 2016, it can be the difference between walking free with a life ahead and ending up back behind bars. Yes. Finding a job is difficult with a criminal conviction, and a college degree is an advantage former prisoners desperately need. Gerald Massey, one of 11 Folsom students graduating with a degree from the California State University of Sacramento, has served 9 years of a 15-to-life sentence for a drunken driving incident that killed his close friend. Oof. The last day I talked to him, he was telling me I should go back to college, Massey said. So when I came into prison, I saw an opportunity to go to college, and I took it. Consider this. It costs roughly $106,000 per year to incarcerate one adult in California. It costs about $20,000 to educate a prisoner with a bachelor's degree program through the Transforming Outcomes Project at Sacramento State, or TOPS. If a prisoner paroles with a degree, never reoffends, gets a job earning a good salary, and pays taxes, then the expansion of prison education shouldn't be a hard sell, said David Zuckerman, the project's interim director. I would say that return on investment is better than anything I've ever invested in, Zuckerman said. That doesn't mean it's always popular. Using taxpayer money to give college aid to people who've broken the law can be controversial. When the Obama administration offered a limited number of Pell Grants to prisoners through executive action in 2015, some prominent Republicans opposed it, arguing in favor of improving the existing federal job training and reentry programs instead. Well, at least they came up with a legit replacement. So, which is an improvement from today's Republicans. The 1990s saw imprisonment rates for Black and Hispanic Americans triple between 1970 and 2000. The rates doubled for white Americans in the same time span. The ban on Pell Grants for prisoners caused the hundreds of college and prison programs that existed in the 1970s and 1980s to go almost entirely extinct by the late 90s. Congress voted to lift the ban in 2020, and since then, about 200 Pell-eligible college programs in 48 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico have been running, like the one at Folsom. Now the floodgates will open, allowing any college that wants to utilize Pell Grant funding to serve incarcerated students to apply, and if approved, launch their program. President Joe Biden has strongly supported giving Pell Grants to prisoners in recent years. It's a turnaround. The Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994, championed by the former Delaware senator, was what barred prisoners from getting Pell Grants in the first place. Biden has since said he didn't agree with that part of the compromise legislation, and yet you still voted for it. The California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation had 200 students enrolled in bachelor's degree programs this spring and has partnered with 8 universities across the state. The goal, said CDCR Press Secretary Terry Hardy, transforming prisoners' lives through education. Aside from students dressed in prisoner blues, classes inside Folsom Prison look and feel like any college class. Instructors give incarcerated students the same assignments as the pupils on campus. The students in the Folsom Prison class come from many different backgrounds. They are black, white, Hispanic, young, middle-aged, and senior. Massey, who got his communications degree, is of South Asian heritage. Born in San Francisco to parents who immigrated to the U.S. from Pakistan, Massey recalls growing up feeling like an outsider. Although most people of his background are Muslim, his family members belong to a small Christian community in Karachi. In primary school, he was a target for bullies. As a teen, he remembered seeking acceptance from the wrong people. When he completed high school, Massey joined the Air Force. After 9/11, I went in, and some people thought I was a terrorist trying to infiltrate, he said. It really bothered me, so when I got out of the military, I didn't want anything to do with them. Which is fair. Massey enrolled in college after 1 year in the military, but dropped out. Later, he became a certified nursing assistant and held the job for 10 years. He married and had 2 children. His addiction to alcohol and a marijuana habit knocked him off course. I was living like a little kid and had my own little kids, Massey said, and I thought if I do the bare minimum, that's okay. Prison forced him to take responsibility for his actions. He got focused, sought rehabilitation for alcoholism, and restarted his pursuit of education. He also took up prison barbering to make money. And that's what prison should be. It should be to rehab people. I mean, if these people are supposed to go back into the community, what good would it be if they got nothing out of the experience except for possibly learning how to crime better? So yeah, definitely big on rehabilitation. In between haircuts for correctional officers and other prison staff, Massey took advantage of his access to Wi-Fi connection to study, take tests, and work on assignments. Internet service doesn't reach the prisoners' housing units. On commencement day, Massey was the last of his classmates to put on his cap and gown. He was a member of the ceremony's honor guard. His prison uniform was decorated with a white, aiguille, the ornamental braided cord denoting his military service. It's a big accomplishment, Massey said. I feel honestly that God opened the doors and I just walked through them. Sure. Massey found his mom, wife, and daughter for a long-awaited celebratory embrace. He reserved the longest and tightest embrace for his 9-year-old daughter, Grace. Her small frame collapsed into his outstretched arms as wife Jacqueline Massey looked on. There's so many different facets and things that can happen when you're incarcerated, but this kept him focused on his goal, Massey's wife said. Having the resources and the ability to participate in programs like that really helped him, but it actually helps us too. And it helps society in general. There is a domino effect. It's good for our kids to see that. It's good for me to see that, she said. In addition to his communications degree, Massey earned degrees in theology and biblical studies. His post-release options began to materialize ahead of graduation. State commissioners have deemed him fit for parole, and he expects to be released any day now. A nonprofit group that assists incarcerated military veterans met with him in May to set up transitional housing, food, clothing, and health care insurance for his eventual reentry. There's a radio station I listen to, a Christian radio station, that I've been thinking one day I would like to work for, Massey said. They're always talking about redemption stories, so I would like to share my redemption story one day. And of course I've heard horror stories like California using inmates to help fight fires, but then when they get out, they can't get a job. So maybe, this will help. Just the fact that they have a college degree. And maybe that's what these firefighters need to do. Not just fight fires, but actually go back to school. Because, if they're going to use skills in prison, then they should be allowed to use it out of prison. Makes perfect sense to me. College and prison programs aren't perfect. Many prisoners barely have enough room to accommodate the few educational rehabilitation programs that already exist. Prisons will have to figure out how to make space and get the technology to help students succeed. Well, that's true. Racial imbalances in prison college enrollment and completion rates are also a growing concern for advocates. People of color make up a disproportionate segment of the U.S. prison population. Yet white students were enrolled in college programs at a percentage higher than their portion of the overall prison population, according to a 6-year Vera Institute of Justice study of Pell Grant experimental programs in prison. Why not? We've got to have racism everywhere. Black and Hispanic students were enrolled by 8 and 15 percentage points below their prison population, respectively. Prisoners with a record of good behavior get preference for the rehabilitative and prison college programs. Black and Hispanic prisoners are more likely to face discipline. If you're trying to discipline to college access, then those folks are not going to have as much access, said Margaret DeZerga, who directs the Vera Institute's Unlocking Potential initiative, which is focused on expanding college in prison. Let's get them into college and set them on a different trajectory. It's not yet clear if the Pell Grant expansion will grow or narrow the racial disparities. The U.S. Department of Education did not respond to the AP's inquiry on this issue before publication. For America to be a country of second chances, we must uphold education's promise of a better life for people who've been impacted by a criminal justice system, U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona said in a written statement to the AP. Pell Grants will provide meaningful opportunities for redemption and rehabilitation, reduce recidivism rates, and empower incarcerated people to build brighter futures for themselves, their families, and our communities. Of the 11 men getting bachelor's degree in the jubilant ceremony at Folsom Prison last month, one was no longer a prisoner. Michael Love, who had paroled from Folsom Prison 5 months earlier, came back to give the valedictory speech. He wore a suit and tie underneath his cap and gown. To his classmates, Love is a tangible example of what is possible for their own redemptive journeys. After serving more than 35 years in prison, the 55-year-old, oh dear God, is currently enrolled in a master's program at Sacramento State. He's been hired as a teaching aide and will teach freshman communication students in the fall and is working as a mentor with Project Rebound, an organization that assists formerly incarcerated people. You have just as much value as anyone in the community, he told the other prisoners in his speech. You are loved. I love you. That's why I'm here. For many of the prisoners, it was the graduation that their families never imagined they'd get to see. A 28-year-old man met his father in person for the first time as his dad received a GED. Yes, I'm going to cry. As the ceremony wrapped, Robert Nelson, the outgoing president of Sacramento State University, choked up with tears. Same. He was retiring, so the graduation of Folsom Prison was his last ceremony. He would preside over as university president. There is one final tradition, and that is to move the tassel. Not yet, not yet, not yet. From the right to the left, Nelson instructed to laughter from the audience and graduates. The left side is where your heart is, the university president said. When you move that tassel, you are moving... Come on, Susan. You are moving education and the love of education into your heart forever. The ceremony was done. Many graduates joined their loved ones inside a visitation hall for slices of white and chocolate cheesecake and cups of punch. The graduates walked back to their housing units with more than just, with more than just hope for what their futures might bring. One day they'll walk out of the prison gates with degrees that don't bear an asterisk, revealing they earned it while in prison. They'll walk toward a second chance. And I believe that is it for that is it for this article. And like I said, I fully support this program. It's a very good program because a lot of these people get into trouble because they don't have the opportunities others do. And if you're whining that you have to pay for your college, and these guys do not have to, let me just remind you that rich people don't have to pay as much as you do for certain things. That doesn't mean that they're somehow more valuable or less valuable or whatever. Everybody has to make their needs met. And for some people, this is what it takes. I would rather people get free college. Well, actually, I'd rather everybody got free college, not just in certain circumstances. But if that's what it takes to ensure that there's less crime and that people are not getting into as much trouble, then I'm all for it. Like I said, personally, free college for everyone, because that's just bullshit. Everybody should have access to college. You shouldn't have to be rich or go to jail. Those should not be your two options. You should be able to go to college, not end up under crushing debt, and be able to better yourself. So, I believe I am done with this article, and I will see you guys in the next video.